Mississippi House Speaker Jason White was on the coast this week talking about economic development and growth. Bill Snyder had a chance to talk with him about the message he brought to South Mississippi.
Speaker White, first, thanks for being here. And while we're on the anniversary of Katrina this weekend, one of the things people forget about after the storm, state lawmakers brought about the laws where you kind of brought the casinos a little off the water. That's one of those hidden things people forget about, but that was huge looking back from 20 years.
It was huge. That was obviously a little bit before my time, but watching it from afar, and then even now seeing the growth as a result of those key policy decisions immediately and in the year or two after the storm, I think our people got it right, not only here on the coast, but our policymakers statewide to set the coast up for the huge rebound that we've seen. And certainly, y'all got it going on here on the coast, and it's always good to be here.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking of. Of course, yeah, that was a while back, but you see the fruits of that labor now. With that in mind, it's interesting, you were talking about the Gulf Coast Restoration Fund and our contingency, debating about where some of that money's going to go. But for you in Jackson as the speaker, that's interesting. That other $10 million, that also becomes quite interesting for you and the other lawmakers.
It does. It does. Anytime a pot of money at the Capitol comes out on the table for decisions about how it's going to be spent, that certainly always brings out lots of varied and wide interest. But certainly the majority of that has been pointed to the coast. I think the investments have been good to this point. We got some projects we need to finish up that have started, but by and large, not specifically funding GCRF projects the last year or two. I was a little bit disappointed in that, but at the same time, as I was telling this crowd, maybe that gives us an opportunity to reset and figure out for this last part of GCRF that we are certain to get it right and that it leads to long-term investment.
One of the things going on right now, kind of feeling that victory from the state income tax passing, kind of reaping the fruits of that labor. So before you move on to the next battle, that was something, it was tough, a lot of squabbling, a lot of going back and forth, but it's got to feel good knowing in the end it came out the way a good majority of people wanted.
It did, and I think that was why we were so adamant in the House about it. As I mentioned in my talk, it received 91 House votes out of 122. When you start getting up in the 90s on a vote total, that tells me, hey, we're on to something here. And so, that was something that the Senate eventually began to take notice of and start getting on board with that idea. We had different ideas about how to get there, and I tell people all the time, you might not want to see the process, but the end result I thought was certainly worthy and a true victory for all of Mississippi to kind of set us up to keep this momentum going that everybody feels and you can see, especially here on the coast.
Yeah, the sausage making is not fun. And speaking of that, with the school choice coming up, you guys earlier this week, some folks from Washington were here kind of getting the strategy together. It's something the governor is in favor of. You're in favor of it. Of course, there's a lot of pushback as well, but you feel like that's going to be the big push coming up in January, kind of getting ready for the next round of that.
We do, and we're beginning to address the age-old arguments that have kept us from going in this direction. But now, as we have a new school funding formula, Republicans have funded our K-12 public education at historic levels, historic teacher pay raises the last few years. It's time now we also look at parents and kids and put them first in that equation. Now, that doesn't mean throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but we've got to figure out what is best for each Mississippi family, and the House is going to make a big push to put them at the forefront of the discussion, and I think Mississippi is ready for some real school choice, and I'm excited about those conversations. Yeah, they'll be tough. Some of them will be tough, but I think they're worthy, and the end goal being to bring some real choice to Mississippi parents and families.
Yeah, it's a national initiative, but at the same time, it's also initiative where the president's saying we want to leave it up to the state. So it might start as that, but it could evolve into something else, I guess.
Yeah,
statewide.
It could, and as President Trump has been very adamant about his thoughts about unwinding the U.S. Department of Education and the federal overreach into our K-12 systems. He wants to return that power to the state, but he takes it that next step and says, I want to return it to families and it be about the kids. And so now as we are surrounded by other states that have universal school choice, it's time for us to get in that game and figure out, it may look different for us in Mississippi, but we should be able to live in that space as well.
One thing, too, and this is the last thing, business-wise here in Mississippi, you see things popping up all over. And I remember back 20, 30 years ago, that was just getting started. Now that momentum of bringing in businesses, those type of things, it's really a reality, and that's happening here in our state. Like you said, we used to be a laughingstock. Now we're moving up.
We really are. I tell people when I go around the state speaking, and even in other states, the momentum that you feel, it is real. It's not just isolated to husband and wife that own a small business and they finally feel like they're turning the corner. You feel that everywhere when you're out and amongst the people, and our job is going to be to keep that momentum going in 2026.
Speaker White, thank you so much for your time.
Thank y'all very much.